So welcome everybody watching tonight. This is the Trust the People YouTube channel. I'm Hester from Trust the People, and we've got a really exciting evening tonight. We've actually just started our third iteration of the Trust the People course this week, and it's not too late to join if you still do want to join us. So what we're doing tonight is we've got loads of amazing people here, actually. I'm not going to introduce everyone now. They can introduce themselves as they begin speaking. We're going to have a little presentation from Jess and Naira from the Trusted People team. And then we've got a very special guest panel that are going to be just responding to what we see in the presentation. And then we've got a little bit of time at the end for questions. If you can't stay to the end, don't worry, this is being recorded. So what we can do is just take your questions. You can put them in the YouTube chat as you're watching, or on Facebook as you're watching, and then we can answer them. You can watch it later. So I am going to hand over to Naira.
Great, thank you, Hester. Hi everyone, my name is Naira and I am from Trust the People. So Jess and I are just going to give you a bit of a talk about how we think Trust the People can help shape the world that we desperately need. And I'll just tell you a little bit about Trust the People first. It's a grassroots community building movement that is sharing democratic tools to help support people in their communities in the face of local crises and global crises like the one that we're facing at the moment. And it began as a project in XR's Future Democracy Hub. And it was initially looking at how we could connect with people during COVID, but it's now spread into a movement. And we now work with loads of different organizations across the UK and the world. And at Trust the People, we believe that creating democratic hubs in our communities, which reach across political, social and economic divides, is what will help us shape the future that we need. And also it's a really powerful and enriching way to live, just building connections, because when we build connections, we open up worlds of possibilities. And if we're doing things on a local level, we can start kind of working with people so that we create networks within our community that help respond to everyone's needs. So thinking about skill sharing with time banks, having community food growing schemes, having cooperatives and cheaper housing, and just basically people coming together to take control of how the community is run. And we want to kick off this talk before we tell you a little bit more about Trust the People by encouraging you to engage your imaginations, because we think that this is a really important first step towards shaping the world and the community that we want and need. So I'm going to pass you over to Jess to do some bit of imaginative visioning.
Thank you, Naira. So yeah, I'd like to just invite everyone on the panel, or if you're watching at home, to just close your eyes and take a breath. And we want you to imagine your ideal community. So think about your ideal community and maybe what the average day is like in your community. What are the relationships with others like in this community? What is the community's relationship to nature like? What is the community's relationship to food like? What principles is the community organized along? And lastly, what are the power structures like, and how is the community responding to crisis like COVID and the climate crisis? So when you've thought about that for a second, come back into the space, and you've probably imagined loads of wonderful things in that moment, which maybe seem quite different to the reality in which maybe you currently live, or the community which you currently live in. But we don't, these ideas do not need to remain in the imagination. And our point is that we can really make this happen. So if we are to create a situation in which we shape this livable planet, which we so desperately need, then we'll really need to address lots of the questions which I just asked. And we really need to focus on building healthy relationships with others in our community and with nature and with food. We need to find a way of farming sustainably. And we need to have a society which is, organized on more caring and compassionate principles. So I guess just to sum all that up, we really need resilient communities which come together when we face crisis like COVID and crisis like the climate crisis, which is to come.
Thanks, Jess. And at Trust the People, we think we can start taking those steps to build those communities that you're imagining and the ones that we need now. And that's what our course is focused on. So we have created a course, which is a free online 8-week course that gives people the skills to enact change in their local community. And it's organized around 5 weeks. It's not organized around 5 weeks. It's organized around 5 modules. And the first module is personal processing. And we think that we need to start by reflecting and working on ourselves and thinking about our identity and how that impacts our relationships with others before we start going out and thinking about building things within our community. So it's a chance for us to recognize our biases and break out of our echo chambers. Then our second module, engaging communities, is looking at how we can engage with our wider community. So how we can do that now during COVID, and also how we can bring in the voices that are normally missing. So we often get the usual suspects in spaces, particularly in activism spaces. So it's about kind of trying to make sure that it's inclusive. Module 3, group support. This is looking at how we can build healthy teams and work together in a way that is compassionate and in which we overcome conflict, and conflict isn't like a kind of a difficult barrier that stops us being able to work together, but actually an opportunity to connect and build a kind of compassionate team that is able to achieve its aims. Then module 4, community assemblies, and this is teaching people about people's assemblies and how to facilitate people's assemblies, and they're really at the core of this course, because we think that they're such a fantastic way for people to share their ideas in a way that's radically inclusive and that ensures no one person dominates, and that enables communities to come together and make decisions collectively. And then module 5 is community organizing. So this is where the magic happens, and this is where people start thinking about the what if, what next. And this could include going out into communities and running people's assemblies, thinking about creating co-ops, housing co-ops, energy co-ops, food growing. And after we've finished module 5, we then have a project week where we learn from people in lots of different movements around the world. So and in the UK. So we're having people from the Kurdish Solidarity Network run courses, people from Flatpack Democracy in the UK, from climate emergency centres, and they're going to share their skills and experiences in facilitating local change. And as Hester said, the course is running now. We're just in the intro week, so it's not too late to sign up. And back to you, Jess.
Okay, so far we've helped to upskill and empower over 840 people through our Trust the People course. But we want to highlight that we're more than just a course that people come to and do a workshop every week, and then kind of that's it. We're really this network of community organisers who support each other through doing this work. And when you graduate from this course, you're really in that community, and we provide these like small support networks so that you're not alone when you're going about your community organising. So we're also a catalyst for new community movements and also for connecting with existing movements. So what we really want to highlight is that there's so much already happening in our communities, and we're really not starting from scratch when we think about the kind of community that we might want to live in. And our kind of mission is to really connect with these movements and unite with them, because obviously together we can really like reach more people and we can put pressure on governments to act when there's more of us. So recently, I guess we want to highlight that a lot of the action that has been taken to create a livable planet or demand a livable planet and to put pressure on governments to do this is through tactics such as non-violent direct action in movements like Extinction Rebellion and the youth school strikes for the climate. But for a crisis as big as the climate crisis, we really need this, multiple pronged approach and all of these different things happening in conjunction to kind of make this big eruption of action to come about. And we really think that community organizing is a key part of that approach. So really relying on government action alone is not enough, and it fails to lead the way into this world that we really want to create.
So we're now thinking, okay, let's start mobilizing, let's start getting ready for when lockdown lifts, for when COVID settles, for when people step back out into the streets to resume their lives. Kind of, we have to be thinking, okay, what are the alternatives to consumerism, to capitalism, to excess, to exploitation? And we need to be offering those alternatives and showing that actually people don't need to go back to buying things they don't need, to kind of having food that's shipped half across the world. There can be different structures in place for expressing who we are, why we're here, and for connecting and working together. So we want to, encourage people to join TTP, do the course, and just get organising their communities, because we don't need to wait around for the government. We can model the way and take the necessary action to create a livable planet now by organising with people in our communities. So that's a bit about Trust the People. Back to you, Hester.
Thank you so much, Anira, and thank you, Jess. I really appreciate you being here and giving your time, and that likewise to everyone that's here tonight. I wonder if we could say hello to everyone now who's on the panel this evening. If you're not on the panel, could you just turn off your video? And Gail, Skeena, Charlotte and Sheridan, could you just keep your videos on? Is that all right? And then we should be able to see everybody. Yay. So we're here to talk about this question, like, can we community organize ourselves to a livable planet, basically? Like, can community building be this prefigurative action, right? Could it be this political act, this prefigurative action to the livable planet that we don't have right now? We know that we're consuming, 1.8 planets, our current consumption rate. And when I think about everything that there is to do, like, I get really, really overwhelmed. I'm gonna go first to Sheridan, because my baby's banging around the doors. And also, Sheridan, I think you have a different perspective, because you've also been through this program with us, and you're very on the ground with the work that you do in your community. So I wonder if you could give us like some response to what you've heard, and also just how you're feeling right now personally about the situation, what's at stake, and what there is to do, like how much really. Say whatever you like. Over to you, Sheridan.
Sorry, is it mean in what I've learned on the course, or sorry,
I suppose if I can prompt you, well, first of all, could you say a bit about yourself and what you're interested in, and then like responding to what we've just heard, and I'll prompt you if you need me to again. But
so I'm Sheridan. So I'm very much interested in politics, and the thing that got me into politics in the first place was when I'm 45 years old, and when I was in my 30s, as an adult, I was bullied by a male colleague, and the bullying almost turned to violence, and he actually got away with it. And it was one of the things that prompted me that when I joined the Labour Party, I really, really, really wanted to be a women's officer. And also, yes, I'm a black woman, he was a black man. and joining the 100 Black Men of London as a mentor, mentoring young Black children, especially with the Black boys, making them understand, you know, you can't go around, it's not good to bully people and this kind of thing. And so that was one of the things that actually got me into where I am in the first place, really. Yeah, so just basically just sort of wanting to make change and to make a difference in society, really, and to sort of be a role model as well. That was one of the reasons why I became a women's officer and why I joined the 100. Yeah, so and then also with Trust the People too, I actually found you guys through being a member of Extinction Rebellion. It was in the WhatsApp group, and somebody mentioned about, oh, Trust the People, it's a really good cause. I thought, oh, okay, great, I'll go on to this. And I just loved it. It was amazing. And when I went back to them and told them, they were like, oh, wow, you're on this course. Yeah, it's fantastic. It just, I feel that with this course, it allows you to have that platform to speak and to give you that voice of what you really think. And what I really loved about it was that because where I live, there's so many issues, like with the cycle lanes, the pot lanes, you know, this and that, and there's no communication with the council. And there's a lot of fighting going on with the council and the member of the public saying they didn't know certain things that were going on. And with this, I wanted to use it as a community hub so that we can be the voice for the people in the, you know, your local area, for them to be able to speak and to say what their problem is, and then we can relate back to the council. So I feel like with this Trust the People, that's what that does. It allows you to have your say, because actually, really and truly, nobody does. And yes, I am a member of the Labour Party, and I would love to be a councillor, love to be an MP, love to be Prime Minister. Oh my God, right? But it's, at the end of the day, people like us, so you and me, we don't have that voice because you're stuck behind the council, and you need somebody to push in front and to say, look, we don't want that. We want this. We want this. This is what we want. And a lot of the residents you speak to say, well, I didn't know about this. I never heard about that. Nobody asked me my say. No one asked me my opinion. And that's what's going on. And a lot of these MPs and a lot of the councillors, sorry to say, are oblivion to it. Really are. So, yeah.
And Sheridan, can I stay with you just for just a second? What do you think we're up against in terms of like the changes that are needed, and, you know, being more of like getting the community mindedness back? I know it's so hard right now. We've got COVID. We're all separated. We can't even get into like spaces together. But as you see it in your experience, and I know that you're on the ground doing food banks and things like that, like what do you think we're up against? Like, be plain, like, be honest.
We're kind of up against society, really. We're up against this ridiculous government with Boris Johnson of wanting to be popular, as opposed to, oh, who will like me, because he's trying to score points against Theresa May. And that's what it is. I think we're up against a brick wall. You know, you're just like banging your head, and nobody's listening to us. And you really need to sort of stand there and to scream, hello, we are here, we exist, listen to us. And it's really hard, really, really hard. And even in the Labour Party too, we have our meetings, but I don't know if you remember this, oh gosh, the parish thing they showed when they had their Zoom meeting. That is our meeting. That is what it happens. And I know it's ridiculous, but that is what goes on. There's lots of squabbling and stuff. And it's like, that's not, I didn't give up my Sunday night to not miss out on my roast dinner for this, mate. Do you know what I mean? But this is what goes on. And it's up against tough times. I don't know of any leader. But I can remember being a child, and when my dad first came to this country, it was under Sir Edward Heath. So it was under Conservative government. And when Tony Blair won the election, I was 18 years old. And I remember I snuck out of the house. And it's the only time I got caught coming back in, he didn't have a go at me because he was so happy. It's Labour, great. But it's like, even then, people weren't happy with Tony Blair because obviously war in Iraq, and he made buddies with Bush, and, you know. And it's like, when do you ever get a leader that just does things by the books and does things properly? Like, you know, people didn't like Brown. It's just, people don't like Jeremy Corbyn. Even with this one, people don't like him. They say he's too to the right. it should be to the left or it should be in the center. And it's like, you can't, I think we're just, I don't know, you need somebody with Labour who is to the left and fights for what Labour represents, the working class, single mothers, benefits. Why the hell are people using food banks? It's just ridiculous. Even nurses are using food banks. It shouldn't be like that. It's just silly. You know, this is a first world country. You go back to Ghana and tell people that, they'll laugh at you because they're living in a third world country. They're living in poverty. This shouldn't be in poverty. So.
Oh, Sheridan, thank you so much. You've given me so much to like consider right there. Can I come straight to Charlotte though? Charlotte, same thing. Could you just like say hello, introduce yourself briefly, what you're interested in, and then, yeah, anything that's coming up for you that you want to speak to right now?
Hi everyone. I suppose my name's Charlotte. Nice to be here with you all. I have a question for Sheridan. I know that I meant to talk more about myself, but I am so intrigued by so much of what you said. It's so nice to meet you as well, and to be in the same space.
I got angry.
No.
I was thinking, I don't know what I'm going to say.
No, please stop. That was not angry. If anything, it was passion, and we're allowed to speak with passion. So there's no apology for passion. What made you join Extinction Rebellion?
I joined it by accident because I joined. Okay, I know. No, I basically joined the Labour Party, and I met a guy called Anil Patel.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of him.
No, but I may have seen his face. I'm not too great with names.
He always wears a unicorn on his head when he goes out doing demonstrations.
Okay.
Amazing guy, yeah. And I met him. So what happened was he was doing some demonstrations where I live. Okay. And I was thinking, oh, I'd quite like to join him.
Okay.
And then somebody said, okay, this is his number, call him. So I did. And he said, well, he's doing Chiswick and I live in Brentford. He said to me, why don't you just do Brentford? I said, I've never done a demonstration in my life. I don't know what to do. He said, don't worry, you'll be fine. And I did Brentford, he did Chiswick, and we did it at the same time, and the chanting at the same time. And then he says to me, he's in all these different organizations. He put me in touch with all these different platforms. Before you realize it, I'm a member of Extinction Rebellion. I'm on Trust the People's Call. I'm like, I'm doing amazing stuff. I'm able to talk.
Okay.
It's giving me that voice.
So you feel that they gave you a platform?
He's old enough to be my son, but I love him. And that's how it came across. Like, oh my God, I'm a member of Extinction Rebellion. Which my dad's like, oh no, they're troublemakers. They're troublemakers. They stand on the on the roof. They go on the
They climb buildings.
I understand.
Okay.
There you go.
Hey, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
That's so interesting to me. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
What do you think we're up against, Charlotte, in terms of community, bringing community together, organising to like actually get the world back up, in the right direction that we need it to go?
Refocus. I mean, for me, with my observations, everybody thinks they have the way to fix things, but sometimes I feel like that we're fixing a problem that was made by someone else, and then these groups come into different areas to get support and get help. And I just find it so it is all of our problem. We also live on the same rock, absolutely. But there's also groups that are more responsible for the issues that the world is under at the moment. So for me personally, I'm always like super amazed when there's this question of what shall we do? Well, for me, it's a weird question to ask when a lot of the people that are now at the forefront of the destruction are nowhere the cause of it. I say you take it back to the beginning, you take it back to the cause of half of the destruction, and you talk amongst yourselves, and that you decide when are you going to realize that taking from the richest countries, I get really respectfully frustrated when Africa, the West Indies are called third world countries, because they are the most richest, and India, the Far East are called third world countries because technically they are the richest countries in all the land. That's why we have actually been pillaged and had so many resources stolen, and we're still paying reparation. Oh my Lord, I can't even. So I really suggest greed needs to be put down, like, firmly. And this is a great time. We don't need half of the stuff that we think we need to survive, absolutely. But I suggest that the West, the poorest, most, honestly, I mean, it needs to stop taking from other continents and maybe possibly stand in a mirror and have a good look at itself. And then once the discussion has been made between the group that caused the problem, come forward and then apologize sincerely, pay back, give back, gain allyship from those that was stolen from. So rather than coming to those who are not necessarily the cause of it, go back to where the problem started in the first place. I'm done.
Charlotte, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to come to Skeena next. Skeena, it would be wonderful if you just say hello, like introduce yourself, maybe what you're interested in, and then just speak to whatever is coming up for you, like right now as you're listening. Yeah, over to you, Skeena.
Yeah, as I'm listening to Sheridan and Charlotte, my stomach is turning in that way that it does when you hear how much pain and separation and powerlessness we labor under, right? It's so painful. It's so painful, and I'm on the edge of that rage with you. Actually, it's rage. It's rage and grief, and I can feel it in my whole body in this moment. So thank you, because you that feels to me like a really honest place that you've taken us to. So thank you, both of you, for sharing what you have. What's my interest? Oh gosh. So I began life in the Labour Party at the age of 19, and my interest was always inequalities, and that's just grown and grown in various different ways. And I left the Labour Party last year. I'm still a district councillor, but the question, Hester, is because I could say so much about what I'm interested in, why I'm here. That could go on for. The question is about community building as a prefigurative action and the power of that, right? And what are we up against? What's its power, and then what's its block, is what I'm hearing you ask, right? So the power, I think, is immense, because it's that power to step into our vision, step into our values, step into power together, power with, and create something of an entirely new energy, an entirely new paradigm, and it is the shift. So the power feels immense. Just to give you a little story about here in Stroud and its relationship with what you're doing in Trust the People in such a fabulous way, is one of the things that we did a few years ago is visit Frome and the Compassionate Frome Project and the Independent Frome Project, right? Where there are counsellors there who've gone, you know what, enough of this shitty system, enough of this toxic system. We want to do something radically different and radically powerful and deeply local. And it was such an inspiring time. This was about 4 years ago we visited Froome, and that work with Peter McFadden is growing and growing, like the flat pack democracy tools which you're using. And it, you know, it's been reported in The Guardian, it's a phenomenon, and there's such appetite, there's such interest. And I feel like there's still so much privilege around it. There's so much privilege around it. It's not quite making the shift that it is, like Exile. You know, we have these 10 principles and values, and it's what's in the way of us really being in them. So this is what I think we're up against, is a compelling and overwhelming and completely a story that's not owned by us, and it's the scarcity story that has designed the patriarchal culture that we labor under, and that feels to me what's really in the way. It feels like we're laboring under a mainstream media that is the storyteller. It's the toxic media that allows for this toxic democracy, that allows for a toxic global political economy, because life is stories, you know, like life is stories. Cultures are created through stories and rituals, and what the root story for me is the scarcity story, that we somehow, there's not enough for any of us, that our needs can't be met, that it's my justice versus your justice, that it's there's oppressor and oppressed, that we have to be separated like that, that it's them and us, it's 1% or the 99%. It's never a whole human family. And I think that's what excites me, is how we can go to the root stories and take that root story, take it on and go, well, do you know what? In reality, there's infinite abundance. Yes, we're working past our planetary boundaries, and destroying ourselves. We're somewhere between mass suicide and mass manslaughter. Yes. And there is still epic beauty, infinite abundance, because if you look at the reality where look at food waste, $1 trillion, right? Last year, the cost to the food waste to the cost of $1 trillion. And we know that it would take just 30 billion to end food hunger. So we could feed the world over many times over, yeah, with the food that we have, with the food that we grow. So this is a lie. The scarcity story is a lie, and it's time to tell the truth. This is what XR is saying. Let's tell the truth. And co-liberation is asking for something for us to shift some consciousness around how we come together to uproot these stories that we're stuck in, that we are oppressed by, that we have no freedom in. How do we come together and tell a new story? A story that frees us, a story that realizes that we belong to each other, a story that notices our interdependence, and a story that leaves us in power within and power with. And I'm really excited, because I think now is a time. What's happened from COVID, I think, is people going, who are the storytellers, and where is the real story? What is the real story? And who has the power? Because if you watch government and how they have been able to respond and not respond to a global health crisis, it feels these questions now around where power is, where our freedom is within that, where what we belong to in that, they're really up for grabs. So I'll pause there, but and just one more thing I want to say in this piece is that, and I started by saying that I feel like we're missing something in here around the decolonization and the undoing of racism, unseating and unlearning racism. And I wonder about that. I wonder about movements like XR and Trust the People as to how we can truly and deeply address that decolonizing and that unlearning through a new story that's not based in separation and powerlessness and this scarcity story. So yeah, I'll stop there.
Thank you, Skeena. Thank you so much. I think the stories are our stories, that like each of us in this room and on this call, like we've got to tell our stories. It is when you say the stories are, the narrative is up for grabs or whatever, I just like, I want to hear the stories that never get like amplified and shouted about. But Gail, can I come to you? Gail, you ready to chip in next?
Yeah, it's such a massive topic, and it's like everything about it is so close to what I think about. I've got loads of bullet points here, and I feel like I could just vomit ideas and thoughts, and I was going to slow down enough to think about what's useful to say, really. I appreciated listening to Noah Yuval Harari recently, who wrote Sapiens, talking to Russell Brand. It was an old video, a year old. He was saying that power in the form of medieval kings wore crowns and chopped people's heads off to show itself, because it wasn't actually that powerful. The power in the world now hides. And I think it's our job to shine a light on where the power is. And I'm so with Skeena on that integrative story of saying, we want you back as our family on our terms and conditions, you know. I mean, I come from a coal mining family, so we spent years in our version of being exploited by the elites of this country, to the point that one of my son's arms are shorter. You know, he's had the shortest arms in his class because on the men's side they have to be short and stocky to survive. You know, it's like selected gene. Anyway, but also I just want to say, Mrs. Thatcher, when she was asked what her biggest achievement was, she said Tony Blair. Yeah, and she meant it, because he was a neoliberal. He was pushing the same economic agenda. She also said economics of the method, the object is to change the heart and soul. They wanted to use the economic system to change our heart and soul, and they did, right? I mean, we've been changed in terms of how much we identify with each other. We've been divided and ruled. So this power that's hidden, it's like a crap quiz question to ask anybody who knows what the Bank of International Settlements do, because I didn't till a few weeks ago. If you've even heard of them, like there's a load of power in the Bank of International Settlements. If we wanted to change things in the world, they'd have to make some of the fact that we don't know that is deliberate. They're the central bank for all the other central banks. It's where finance decides how it's organized, and the way finance is organized in the world is to create deep inequality, which especially is racialized, and especially women are on the sharp end of it. The resource curse that Charlotte was naming, which is when countries are rich in resources, how they end up getting robbed, is a known phenomena. And there's another one called the finance curse that's really similar, when finance takes over an economic system. So the estimates are that it's cost each and every one of us in the UK, each household, 170 grand. Your household was 170 grand better off if the City of London hadn't been ripping off this country. It's not, why ain't that figure in everybody's brains? 90 billion annually in tax dodging. And another centre of power in the world is the UK. It organises neo-colonialism. I mean, people probably know this, but just in case not, I just want to talk about, I want to put on the table these big power issues when we're talking about organising in our communities, because that's what's creating the difficulties, right, on a structural level. So the the Financial Secrecy Index looks at all the sort of worst offenders in hiding money, and the UK are the biggest out of the world when you include our overseas territories and crown dependencies. So when we talk about neocolonialism, it's a manifest thing of, it's known as the pinstripe mafia: accountants, lawyers, bankers, consultants, etc., who organise these tax haven secret jurisdictions that rob other countries of money, right, and bring it into the City of London. It's like a structural. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Then politically, the power lies in the collective. The thing is that the real power lies in the collective, and so what you have to do is smash the collective to pieces. And the biggest way it's been smashed, it's in many ways, but the most visceral is through racism, in my opinion, and that's been organised since Bacon's rebellion, when working class and black people, white working class and black working class people, united to oppose some plantation owners, and then, you know, it literally got invented as a system to divide us, and it's very effectively, that story is very effectively told. And I think as we untell that story and we tell a different story, as Skeena's talking about, we need to get really clear about how we go about that, and like what we, you know, I think we beat ourselves up on the left. I think we beat ourselves up personally, we beat each other up. We, you know, that there's a way to go about this that I think we need to birth. And I think I was listening to a video that you'd done with Malvina and Charlotte on before, and I was just really hearing the sisterhood in that work, and that sense of the place where this sits in our bodies. Like, it's literally, you know, part of what I've also done is like a lot of body work and, you know, self-healing work. I've got the privilege to be able to do some of that, and it's locked into us in stress. And if we don't work out how to sort of de-stress together, you know, so when we talk about communities and community tools, it's like part of me was just, it did sound, you know, I'm really not here to tell anybody what to do, right? Theories of change differ for different people, but this sort of idea that we're going to create these communities, it did feel like quite a lot of privilege in that. And I do think we need to practice. We need to practice democratic forms. We need to practice being together. My personal view is we need to practice being together as we take on the power. And I guess maybe that's what was being said in Trust the People. You know, it's like taking on the power. Except I suppose what I'm really focused on is the power that lies in the political economy, not just in, you know, in us getting elected into places, because the system's rigged. You know, it wants some of us to show up in as councillors and so on to legitimize it. Oh, gosh, I sound like I'm against doing that work. I'm not. It's just not my path. What I really want to say is that this system's falling to pieces. It's already crumbling, and so I could understand people wanting to work together to create the new world. I think, you know, there's a science term called morphic resonance, which is, if somebody can get it right somewhere, that it can spread in the world. So I sort of believe in that, and I love it when people go into deep dives together to try and figure something out. I'm also about how do we take on systemic power. So maybe I said a lot, and I'm not sure that was really clear, but I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Gail. Oh, when you said about the systems crumbling, like, I think that's what we're trying to do, is just have a replacement, have an alternative, have something that
Oh, have we lost Hester there? I'll jump in and fly us until she comes back. I think she was talking about yeah, if all of these systems are crumbling, if like politics and economy and all of these sort of high level things have been happening, and But actually, as humans, our face-to-face interaction on a daily level, like the people in our neighborhoods who we might smile at and grow food with, like, can community organizing on that level be something that can like protect us when this system continues crumbling, and you know, these big structures of power do start to go? Like, what are we going to have left? Oh, Hester, are you back? I just finished your question. I have no idea if that's what you were going to say.
I love you so much, Mags. This is what we do. This is what women do. We're just here for each other. Oh, I can't believe my Wi-Fi just failed. It was just about, do you know what? It was just about where we feel the stress in our bodies. And actually, there's something that I always just thought was so hippy dippy, which was like womb yoga. And it's like, you know, the womb intelligence. And basically, I was in denial of the fact that I had a womb until I was about 37. I've talked to you about it, Mags, loads before. And actually, bloody hell, we just need to celebrate actually the fact that we have ovaries and a womb, and we're wired in a particular way to nurture and grow and birth things. Like, that's what we do. And we're so aligned with the earth, actually. If we just get rid of all the distraction, then actually women know exactly what to do when we're in tune. I'm going to pass over to Marvina now. Marvina, just let us know how you're doing, and I know you've had some bad news this evening as well, so just, you know, just let us know what you need. And are you okay to come in now?
Yeah, I am. It's beautiful to be in this space, because I feel there's a need to be in the space with some amazing, powerful individuals, from Skeena to Gail to Hester to Charlotte to all the amazing people here. I don't want to start calling names, but the reason I'm in this space is because I know that I'm in this fight with you. I know that I'm around people that their voice ripples to create a legacy of change. I know I'm in a space when I say I can't breathe, they can understand what justice for my climate justice movement. Because when I say I can't breathe, looking at Black Lives Matter, in my mind, I think about 4 million people that cannot breathe, melanated people that in countries where their air is so polluted. So when I talk about oppressed people oppressing other people, I'm going to turn my video off. I just want you to see me. I think there's some...
No, Marvina, you stay on. I just want other people to turn off theirs. You stay on. You stay on.
Okay, then. Sorry, guys. I think what Hester was trying to say, I had a loss this afternoon. A family member passed away that was really dear to me. I am doing this for them. It's simple. I can cry later, but I can be with my comrades today, with my sisters in the fight, and I can speak my truths and see what I can do to move things forward for our communities. Going back to it, I think when I think about community organizing, what I love doing when I think about that is I think about what my ancestors have done prior to me, the fact that they fought to let me be here, the words that were spoken. I think about what spirit is talking to me, what God is saying to me. I think about the fact when I think of Mother Earth, as Hester talked about mother, we keep hurting this earth that we're in. And I feel like I have to be accountable to someone at the end of this journey. So I have to do my part. So when I think of community organizing, I think about how do I make the individuals make the right decision, but also hold accountable the corporate and the systems, and not be afraid to speak truth to power. But another thing that I tell and I teach people around community development, let no oppressed group oppress another group. That's the strength of divide and conquer. When people try and figure out what's the difference between climate justice and climate change and racial justice, and why do you want to integrate them? I say, let me paint a picture for you. With climate change, history can be painted as simple as this. There was the extraction of land, which led to slavery and colonization of people, which fed into the industrial capitalist culture, which then brought climate change. See it that way. See land and people's body being taken, and just like Gail spoke about, find a way to link that story clearly. If capitalism does not have a part to play in it, we would not be able to decolonize our economy. With the need for things, the more we use, not what we want, but we just constantly want to be fulfilled. I see as communities, we need to give a voice to those that don't have a voice. The voiceless are able to speak if we yield our power and give them the ability to speak without interruption. Can we do that? Sometimes we go into our academic speech and we go into our knowledge source, and we forget that we are here to intercede for those who cannot speak at this moment. We all have certain privilege based on what we have to share in platforms. And community capacity building for me means I get to identify what I love and identify what I hate in society. And I use what I love to fix what I hate. And that's how I create innovative projects, because I let the love lead me in everything I do. And sometimes it is depressing as hell. Be honest to you, sometimes I sit there and I'll be like, God, like what you doing? Like, why are you letting us go through this? And I'm quite spiritual, and I know some people know me for my prayers randomly. I could just bust into prayers because, be honest to you, I die to ego and I let God lead. And I know some people might not be spiritual, and I link into my ancestors, and also I decolonize my spirituality, but I also know that there is a reason for everything going, and I am on borrowed time, and my time has to be accounted at the end. And I have to say what I did on this earth to do something beautiful. And yes, bust into prayer. And one of those things I do that I actually am going to do, because I am close to tears because of one thing. And everybody that knows me knows I'm not emotional. Women are phenomenal. Women are phenomenal. Women are phenomenal. Women are phenomenal. I would say that not because I'm trying to undermine any other gender or non-binary, but because too much do we question ourselves, question our words. Too much do we walk in imposter syndromes thinking that we are not doing enough. Too much are we in the front lines leading these campaigns and doing phenomenal things for our community with no praise and no wage. We're not doing this for anything of glory, just because we have that nurturing bone. I speak to all the female activists and non-binaries in their gender neutral. I want to say I see you. I celebrate you today. I love you. This fight is not yours alone. And women, when we come together, we remove all the barriers. We remove this construct of race that being created. Because listen, there's just one race, the human race, and we need to get to it. I could say Black Lives Matter all day, every day, but I only need to say it because someone created race. Someone constructed it to make some people feel lesser for a capitalist system. So when Gail was talking about you need to tackle the system, you need to understand what that is. That decolonizing of the economy is the most important thing we need to do. You need to hit them where the money comes. Sometimes you need to affect where flow comes from them. So they see it as blocking blessings. And sometimes you need to do that. But what I'll do, I'm going to just do something that's really dear to me. I'm going to just get spirit to lead. And it's really a quick prayer, and then I'll leave it into questions. This is just an introduction. So you're getting to meet us, and we're going to do more. And trusted people, we're so proud of you for bringing this dynamic forum together. We are political on a day, every day, but I'm going to do this prayer. And if you're not religious, that's fine. Mute me right now. Ancestors, God, divine beings, I want to speak life into everyone in this room. We're all going through struggles that we don't know. We see this fight, we see this community that we're trying to build, and we don't know how we're going to do it. Sometimes we think we have a plan, but we ask to rest in your knowledge, guide us and give us purpose to what direction you want us to go. With whatever loss or pains we're going through, this COVID where isolation and loneliness is becoming a norm, and looking at the screen is the only way we can connect, we ask to be clothed with your love and blessings. We ask for you to let us know that we are divinely ordained to create change in this earth, that we are on your time and purpose. In this right moment, we are connecting. Right now, there's alignments of powers coming together. In fact, the people in this space are the next generations who are going to inspire the next generation and pay it forward to create the change we need to see in society. I speak life into everybody in this space. No longer should we be divided, we become one. We look at ways that we enhance each other. No longer should we acknowledge the lies that have been told to make us think that we're different. Align us to your purpose on this earth. Ancestors, we speak life into us. Ask you for strength in this time where we don't have the strength to speak. Let us build communities according to the way you want us to. Let us heal Mother Earth. Ashe, amen, amen. And I want to say thank you for giving me this moment to speak to you all. Community is you, community is me. I would like my activism to be something known as me mobilizing the many who are silenced on a regular basis. And if I can encourage one person that doesn't have a voice to have a voice, I am happy. And I think we are lucky to be around each other. This is the beginning of everything great. Feel free to ask any questions, and thank you.
I think you're amazing. That was such an amazing speech, Sheridine. Yeah, one thing I wanted to say to you, because obviously being women's officer with the Labour Party, one thing that really irritates me is that as women, we don't all stick together. And I wondered how you felt about that. We know what you were just saying about we are one, we are this, but some women are happy to backstab you. I'm like, mate, what's going on here? Let's make the deal together. What's this about? Stealing other people's man, this and that. You know, the man's beating on the woman. That's not right. I don't get it. We should change the narrative. How do we do that? It's all right.
Can I jump in? Really, yeah. Sorry, Marvina, not disrespectfully at all.
No, you're not.
Why do you think that, Sheridine? Why do you think women do that?
I've no idea. I've never done it in my life, but I've had it done to me. I'm like, what did I do to you? We're the same sex. I don't get it. Why in the same color?
Yeah, let me help you there. Let me help you here. Society has made us see ourselves as competition. Society has made us feel and fear ourselves in strengths. Society has made me see my sister and make me compare myself to compete with her. Society has made me feel that I am not beautiful enough. Society has made me see my sister do something and I get envious of her winning. Society has made me look at why are they talking about her when they could talk about me? And society will keep doing that until you let yourself unlearn that. The only reason I spoke that way is because I know the truth of it's an ideal world of me wanting women to stick together. Sometimes the people that hurt me the most are the people that I love, women that I think should understand my struggle. But do you know what I do? I kill you with love all day, every day. But I make sure I do it in a way that I let you know that I need to figure out what your trigger is. Because sometimes you're projecting towards me. Sometimes you are projecting your insecurities on me. Sometimes you cannot see the vision. That's why you do not share a vision to someone that can only see past their nose. I need people that are not scared to take action. And when people see you leading, they find it really intimidating. Also, we need to acknowledge our privilege. Sometimes we are the problem too. We forget that we used to not have a voice. And then we start silencing others. We start thinking that we can speak for all women. So I always make sure when I speak, I say from my point of view. So by acknowledging your privilege, I know I'm a privileged person as a Black woman. The fact that I'm in your presence right now, I find this as a privilege and I'm humbled and honored to be here. But I also know that my experience and Charlotte's experience is not going to be the same. And Alfie's experience or Gail's experience, but what I do is that I empathize with it. And even though when Gail is winning, I see her win as my win. Because I'm like, yeah, rooting for Gail, like, go Gail, you can do it. If Skinner is winning, I'm saying, okay, Skinner, what you doing? Collaboration, I want to be part of that. I want to know how I can support you. That's what we should do. But no, we don't do that, because jealousy is that ugly thing that we all have, where you see someone win and you're like, when is my turn? And I think sometimes it's jealousy and projection, but I would love other people to tell me what they think about that though. But I think that's my acknowledging, my view of it anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think, who's that speaking now? I think this is a really important thing, because this is not, I think, this is not a natural way to be with one another, right? In this sort of competition, pulling each other down, stabbing each other in the back. And I think that's the patriarchal system, which says it's got to be a winner. It's like there's millions of sperm, but there's only one that wins the race. It's the one, it's the winner.
Come
and
on, Hester.
It's not the feminine, is it? It's not the feminine. The feminine is that we are born with all we have to offer. We are born with, I know we're talking about our organs. Yes, we're not all born with organs. You're right, Gail. We're not all born with our ovaries and uterus, and there's some men in the room, but just humor me for a second, because we don't often get to talk about this stuff, right? And just give it a bit of space and time, because we're stuck in this patriarchy and we're trying to move it into whatever that matriarchal thing is, when we don't know what it is, but elephants do it, you know. It's like most of the, you know, the lionesses that rule, the elephants that rule. We know all those matriarchal societies in nature, which where it's the women and it's the mothers and it's the we all come from the woman's body, right? And we have disrespected the woman's body over and over and over again. So we need to actually unlearn all this stuff, unlearn the competition. I grew up in a family of women. I've got 6 sisters, and we were pitted against each other unless we stood out as individuals and found what was our own track. Well, I wasn't even called Hester. I was called one of the girls. You know, I didn't even have a name because I was one of many girls. So I don't know, anyone come in now? And also, we've only got 5 minutes left. So we've got one question that Mags put up, which is, how can we connect, right? How do we connect this local organising with then acting against the bigger scale systematic power corruption? I think maybe something about unlearning, but over to you guys. Just unmute and speak up, my panel members that are here and ready.
I think we'll let Gail go for this one.
We're just warming up, right?
Yeah, it can't be 5 minutes. How dare you say we're finishing?
I just feel bereft, really, honestly. Do we have to go? I mean,
no, we don't have to go. It's up to you lot.
You know, like, I've got my kids and I did tell them I'd be ready at 7:30, but I'm just literally, I so appreciate you, Marvina, for like just getting stuck in there with prayer and with talking about the sisterhood. I've been part of a women's circle for many years, and the way it came about was a real thing, actually. It was, anyway, cutting a long story short, but basically white women in South America fussing about some problems that were happening there and being told, we don't want your charity, we don't want you to fix it, you need to sort yourselves out in terms of sisterhood. And from that, a circle of women was started in Stroud that meets every full moon. It's actually meeting this Saturday. And it's about prayer. And, you know, for me, when you were talking about history, it goes way back. You know, it's the burning of the witches in this country. It's the slaughter on Mona in Anglesey. It's our indigenous heritage that got eviscerated. It's what's happened to midwives and herbalists and all that. So it's you know, the first thing you do is separate the women, because that's where the power is. And especially, you know, post-menopausal women, disempowered. So like those women don't, I mean, I'm getting there, I'm nearly there, but I don't give a fuck. There's a really fabulous book. I'm reading a lot of books, but Starhawk's Truth or Dare, which is talking about power from within as a form of magic. And I pray as well, Marvina, most days. And you know, as much as I have a science background, it's, to me, there's this medicine and this way of praying. So there's so much to say about all of that, isn't there? And look, I've now taken us to 1928 and I've talked too much, and there's even that important question about connecting the bigger struggles with community, but I just wanted to come in on that stuff because but mostly, like, can we just not stop at 7:30? It's too painful.
We never usually finish on time. These lot who are normally here on a Friday, they just know that. Who hasn't spoken for a while? Skeena, do you want to say something at this point?
Thanks, love. Whoa, 1 minute. Oh, Marvina, you rocked my body. You rocked my soul. You rocked my root chakra. You rocked my womb, right? And I'm going to keep rocking because of you and this prayer and the way you landed. That spiritual intelligence, that's really, can I say, that's what has been taken. When you talk to Indigenous communities, right, they're not just asking for reparations, they're asking for rematriation. And what that means is, right, is that they want their way of knowing with spirit to be respected and given back that right to be in with their spirit, with their soul intelligence, with their connection with spirit, with the spirit of Mother Earth. They want that to be back in relationship. Yeah. And I really feel that this is something that's so missing in these times, particularly, and this is an ecological, moral, political, economic, and spiritual crisis, right? And you know, I'm reminded, Gandhi once was asked, what, you know, why are you're a mystic trying to be a politician? And he said, no, I'm a politician trying to be a mystic. It's the other way around, because that is where he described how that it was that power, it was that force, that intelligence in him, that connection with spirit, that relationship in him that was to serve everything else, right? And my sadness is when we set up community projects and when we set up ways of working and we set up programs and we set up workshops and we set up education streams, and we miss something every time, because that's what we've been separated most from, that relationship with spirit. And I think it is no coincidence that some of the most successful matriarchal Indigenous communities in the world, that's what they do most. There's a culture in Hawaii, right, that 4 days out of 7 days, they have grief tending rituals and ceremony. 4 days out of 7 days, they come together with their grief and their mourning, and they speak to spirit and they speak to one another about it. And then they come back to life and they come back to their joy and they claim their joy and they move on. And so there's so much to say, and I need to stop now because it's 7:32, but I just want to thank you for landing that piece. It's just the center for me. Thank you.
I am, you don't know, I'm blown away. I'm honored. I am surrounded. I actually have to say this publicly. In the past couple of months, I have met sisters who belong to XR, actually, from Hester to Bavini to some amazing Charlotte, to women that I've met from that space I didn't know I needed in my life, and Skeena and Gail, that I didn't know I needed in my life, that I'm meeting, that are now giving me that courage to know that I am not alone. So what builds the bigger conversation, and Alfie, because what builds the bigger conversation for me, and Bavini, sorry if I remember names, I'm going to just say them, Auntie Esther, Auntie Esther, who I'm calling later on tonight, just to like get wisdom How you can build is learning from each other. How you build a connection is lesson learned. Prayer for me is a political tool. I'm going to be honest to you, it's my way of activism, because I know that I have no power by myself and I have the magic within me. And literally when I was made, there was no mistake. I know I keep saying that. Like literally every flaw that is on me was there for a purpose to get me there. When I fail even good. Can you imagine? So even when I'm told that I'm doing something wrong in my movements, I listen. When a sister says she's intimidated by me, I try to die to my ego and my emotions. So in community, we need to, when we're building that capacity, do not take things personal. People are going to criticize you so much. People are going to hate you. Apparently, I'm a terrorist right now. I'm living large, mate. If this is what terrorism is, me fighting for my life, me fighting for people to have a voice, me fighting for the oppressed to come up, me trying to decolonize the system, then write me up. But I'm not going to stop talking, because guess what? I've got children who need, even if I had no children, to the men in the room, we love you. We appreciate you, and we're happy that you're yielding your power to the non-binaries, to the transgender, whoever you are, because I don't want anyone to feel like we're leaving you out. No, we're not. But the reason that we're talking about this is that if you want to build capacity, build women. End of story. Build young girls. But also, if you want to build capacity, build young men and boys to know how to respect women. It revolves about women. It just does. Because as Charlotte said, as Hester said, if you get people who are able to sit there and respect the energy and nurture that comes from a woman. Not every woman, some women are toxic, so don't get me wrong. There's some toxic, damage, hurt women walking around doing some damage to other women. Don't worry about them. Karma will hit them. I don't worry about them too much. I don't give them too much airtime. What you need to do is think about the phenomenal women. Hence why I keep talking about all the phenomenal women I know in my life here. So I think it's something that is great. So for us to move forward, we also need to be politically smart. We get in our emotions sometimes, which is okay. And I don't want anyone to label that strong woman syndrome. I don't want us to die in pain. Talk about your pain. But we need to sometimes separate how we feel from the movement. And that's why I keep saying die to ego. Remove Pretty Patel. What's going on? Oh, Jesus. That one. Someone hurt her.
Hey, that's a whole nother meeting.
Something. That's a whole meeting. So with that being said, I'm happy, Hester. I'm hoping that you're not. People can ask questions and just learn from each other, and then hopefully we'll finish when we're finished. But I think what Gail said is a good thing, where we just go with the flow. Any questions? But I celebrate all the women in this space. Can I say something honestly? Is that okay? Not
always.
I feel that we don't celebrate ourselves. I feel that we self-sabotage most times. I feel like we turn the lights down because we're trying to be humble when we're a star that you can't really pocket. I feel like we focus on people pleasing too much than speaking the truth. And that we've sometimes carved ourselves to mold into things that we don't recognize ourselves no more. And in the movement, I think you need to be honest and truthful. You're not here to be liked. If you're here to be liked, don't be. I was an activated youth. That's all it was. And when people say, like, people that are spiritual are not activists, I'm like, I've got a whole history of people who were spiritual, who were activists. So tell me where you're coming from, because that's what comes with it anyway. So you need to just make sure you trust And this is why I say being spiritual is a political act. Praying is my activism. And then doing what I pray about and not just sitting and hoping someone else would do it. Be an ally to those who you want to be an ally to you. Move in that kind of way. I am allies to other people just because I feel that I can be that way. You never know what your power is until you invest in helping someone else. It's the best gift you can give. Building a shed for someone you never planned to go underneath. It's the most beautiful thing you can do. And karma always pays you back. Never do anything expecting anything. Just do it. And I've got time for Hester all day, every day. I've got time for Alfie all day, every day. I've got time for Bavinia all day, every day. Elise all day, every day. Now Skeena all day, every day. Gail all day, every day. And my big auntie down here from Labour Party, I'm there.
Hello.
We're there to cuss them out. We're going to cuss them out when they're messing up. Listen,
of course,
all political parties need to be held accountable. If you are in the party, I need you to also criticize them because they're taking the piss now.
Labour Party. We have a divide, the left and the right. Apparently, I'm like, oh, can we trust her? Oh, she's a bit to the right. Oh, she's this, she's that. It's like, I'm Labour, mate. Stop it.
I see Alfie. Alfie's bursting to speak.
Alfie, go on then. I'll mute myself.
Just going to say, thank you all for turning up, because today's been a hard day with XR stuff, and this is just rejuvenating. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here. I've helped write a bit of the strategy, and I'm really proud of my ending. I'm really proud of that ending, and I can't drop it right now. Can't drop it. But what I can say, we're talking about women. So this vibe that's coming in here, these powerful women that I see in front of me, how are we going to spread this? Because whether it's dealing with the Labour Party, dealing with Black oppression, dealing with the climate crisis, the women I see in front of me, we are the solution, we are the medicine. So what do we need to do to A, increase us, and B, change the things that we don't want? Because we need more women like you, and I'm sure there are, but we need to connect them, find them. What do you think we're not doing? Whether we're in XR, Black Lives Matter, Labour Party, what needs to change so that we can find these women and increase our numbers?
Sheridan, do you want to? I know Bhavini's got a question too. Could we just let anyone that feels they can answer? I'm looking at Sheridan actually.
Sorry, I was peeling sprouts.
No, I just wondering. Thank you for peeling sprouts. If you can multitask, do you have an answer for Alfie? Do you have an answer? Because you've been through a lot, and what you said in the beginning about mentoring young Black men in London. I don't know if many people know about this 100 Black Men of London, and somebody said about raising men to be, the fullest, most compassionate human beings they can be.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, that was one of the reasons why I joined. It's an organisation called the 100 Black Men of London, and they mentor young Black children. It don't have to be Black, they can be anybody, but it's normally around a Black themed. So it's normally like Black culture. So they just have to sort of understand that's what your child will be taught. But it's just literally to teach them about what's wrong and right, and what you shouldn't do and what you should not do. And obviously, because we become from more deprived areas and this kind of thing, so it's just to sort of teach them and educate them and to let them step up the ladder, so to speak. And that's what it is really. And yeah, and that was one of the reasons why I actually joined it, just to sort of make a difference, because you always think that I don't have children. I would really love children. I'm 45 years old and I still have my dream of having 4 children. Whether that happened, I don't know. But anyway, but it's one of those things that I joined the organisation, and I think it's very well you sort of sat there shouting at the telly and ranting, why'd they do this? Why did they do that? You need to sort of, if you want that change, you got to do it yourself, haven't you, really? And that's sort of that's what it is. Yeah. That's why I hope that answer these questions.
But you're also the women's officer for Isleworth and Brentford. So
yeah,
I'd wonder if you can help
things.
Alfie feel inspired about what you're doing in your position as women's officer
okay.
for your
sure.
for your borough.
So I basically so it's basically issues to deal with the party that also relate with outside issues as well. So anything to do with bullying, sexual harassment, upskirting, sexism, racism, prejudices with even LGBT community as well, transgender as well. So there's all those things that are related to outside world, but it's got to be linked to the party too. So it's got to be realistic that the party can also experience it. And what we do is I do my research in a month, submit my report. So let's just say sexism, yeah, and then I present it to them, my case, and then we have a discussion about it, and then there'll be a vote, you see, and you call that a motion, and then the motion will be passed or moved, or it can be just scrapped like it's a load of rubbish, which 9 times out of 10 would never ever happen anyway. But you always get the odd one guy that just doesn't like. So for example, I did one on sexism, and he said to me, if I can change the wording. And I thought, why do I have to change the wording? He said, well, it means you're saying that all men are like that. And it's like, well, no, I'm not. So I had to change just one word, which was the. It's just like, are you being serious? So he did a vote on it and he won. But he understood my point, and so did everyone else. But it's just those little things too that men need, I think, still educating on. But anyway, it was just silly. But it's just, that's what happens. You set a motion on it, they do a vote, you have a discussion, and you also have to come back and say, why do you feel it's necessary to set this motion? And people do normally agree because they understand. And somebody will say, oh, my sister went through that, my mom went through that, or my cousin, my girlfriend, they went through this. Everybody knows this is, yeah. So this is all true to life. But I think with men, even with period poverty, now they don't realize it now, but being the women's officer 4th year running and being at the food bank, I'm going to bring up period poverty. I'm going to make it a big issue that men shouldn't be squeamish about the word blood, period. Oh, she's come on. They need to understand this is what's going on. So that's my next agenda. Thank you.
Thank you for all your work. Thank you. I think we have to celebrate each other, Alfie. I think that's what we have to do. The women just have to keep celebrating each other and naming each other's achievements and naming each other's just like, you know, amazing milestones and how we're all forging ahead, because we don't see it in ourselves, right? Malvina's done that for me. Charlotte's done that for me. Alfie's done that for me. Just saying like, you've done that. And I'm like, really? Bhavini, you're dying to speak as well. Come in now, Bhavini. Sorry to make you wait.
Do you mind if I just say this to Alfie before Bhavini comes in? And it's a challenge to Skeena and Gail and everybody here to help Alfie. How can we, for Women's History Month, can we all celebrate some amazing, dynamic sheroes and just celebrate her stories? So women that we know are pioneering. Let's just pick 31 for now. And that could be a great thing for us to do and it could be something we can work on and create something to show women for climate justice over that time. So in a way, I'm giving you guys a social action straight away, innit? So that's what we do. We act in it. So it would be nice to just celebrate global, nationally, some amazing women, because we don't get stuck. We're not doing it to get celebrated, but like, it's nice for other people to acknowledge and nominate other people and just tell their stories. So that's my suggestion. Bhavini, big sis, love you. I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Firstly, wow, you phenomenal women. And what an honor and privilege to be here. And the thing that I really want to link up here to all of these voices is representation, because until we start seeing the diverse, colorful representation of women within the spaces of power, within the spaces of activism, and, you know, guys, I struggle sometimes so badly to be this fearless. And I have, in just being more visible in recent times, I've had numerous women of color reach out to me, some saying they're not ready to be in the front line or visible, but sharing their stories with me, and some that are ready. And those we have platformed in Tottenham and in Hackney. So you've got Fatu, that we enabled her to deliver the Dalston Roundtable. We've got Rose, we enabled her to deliver her vision of food distribution to her community. There is many women that will reach out, and we've got to keep those communication channels open. So each of you, I ask, how are you going to make sure that women can reach out to you? Because now you're being representatives, right? And this is how we bring more women, right? Is you've got to keep a channel of communication and accessibility. So to each of you, how are you going to provide that accessibility to yourselves, and how are you going to give that reach to them? Because I've spent the last year, and this is why I've got so many phenomenal women in my life, and why I've been able to bring so many beautiful women of color into Trust the People, because I've allowed for that accessibility. So I bring that to each of you. How are you going to provide accessibility to women that see you represented and want to be part of the same journey? Thank you.
Who wants to have a go answering that one? And then I think we really have to finish. Skina, yes, please.
I think Davina's asking a really important question, and it's back to the systems I think we create, right? Because we have to systematize, we have to make agreements that sit in systems, that whole systems own, so that it doesn't become the burden of one that neoliberalism paints everything as that it's one woman's individual burden to carry, right, and bear and do the work. The question for me is, how do we create agreements that give us our power with one another back, our accessibility with one another back, our communications with one another back, that liberate us in the spaces to speak and to listen well. It's so hard to listen well. There's so much in the way, in our bodies, in our hearts, in our trauma, in our, in the ways we've been separated into parts inside of us. And so how do we, for me, Bhavini, this is the work of CoLib, that we would create systemic agreements that really honor and speak to what you're saying.
Can I just add to that? Because I've had this experience the last couple of years of becoming somebody who's known and seen, and that wasn't my story as a young woman or for many years, I mean, anyway, I don't need to get into my story. I'm 49 this year, so it's not like I wasn't born thinking that I was going to have some kind of platform and space, and it feels really overwhelming at times. It sounds really boring talking about systems, frankly, I think, but what Skina's talking to is I've sort of lived that experience where people come to you as if you are Extinction Rebellion, as if you can fix things, and as if you can, and there's a feeling of overwhelm comes with that. And like in particular, this concept of feedback and learning, when people have things to share that the system needs to learn from. If you don't have somebody, and I hope it's all right to share this, Bhavini, because you gave me some brilliant feedback, not for me personally, or some of it may have been, and I've used that as an ongoing example to say to people, this person gave me this brilliant feedback and we have got no system in place, and it breaks my heart in XR. That needs digesting into smaller chunks. This is related to live streaming. This is related to action design. This is related to action wellbeing at the time. Go to those teams, ask them if they understand what the feedback is. Do they need more information? Bring it back to the person, what they're going to do differently. Check that they've learned. Do you know, like, how do we learn together? It's really important. So systems are super important. I also think that there's something really missing as a bit going off of that discussion in the chat channel about this word leadership. It's become like a dirty word in XR, and I've just got to a point where I've sort of had enough of it, because I wrote most of the principles and values, and one of them uses that word but not strongly enough, and it's not seen. And I think, to me, leadership is anybody who's taking care of a space, wanting that space to go well, for not just about their own involvement in that space, and taking responsibility. And loads of people are stepping up into leadership within XR, and it's not seen, especially, and it's a bit of a cliche, but it's fucking true, women's leadership, because we do a lot of behind the scenes, taking care, hearing people. It's not just women. I know some men that do this work as well, but you know, it's all that labor that we do. And I think so. Our leadership's not, for many women, our leadership's not seen and acknowledged. And like Marvina was saying, this is not about, you know, needing to be seen for some reason that's to do with like our own ego or whatever. All that said, I mean, I'm just going to own for myself as a working class woman that wasn't seen, that has been that is part of the shadow that comes up around leadership. You know, it's just something to notice, like, where is that place of us that's a frozen need that will never be filled, that want to be seen anyway. It's all the inner work, but we can talk to that honestly when people create spaces and come and be really truthful, like Marvina was saying. Because the opposite for me, when you were saying, Marvina, about celebrating yourself, like, and celebrating each other, that's the other bit that we don't do in feedback, is really fucking celebrate each other. And then you sort of hide your light under a bushel because, you know, you don't want to look like, I mean, literally it's working class culture. You're not showing off, are you? You know. Yeah, and then I think we need leadership support spaces where, you know, I'll be really happy for there to be women's versions of that. And I think you were mentioning that earlier, Bhavini, where we could come together and support each other's leadership. And I think that might be a way to stay in connection. But I'd also, I know I'm seeing Hester saying we need to wrap up. I'd be interested to know what you think it looks like, what that would be like for you in a way that felt like it would work, if that's possible.
No. I've seen Esther's message. I want to say thank you, Gail, for that one. And thank you, Skeena. And I would say really quickly that, Bhavini, you know that my door is always open. Sometimes it's too open. So I'm going to now be the devil advocate here, that I am not God. I cannot do everything, and it's okay. The reason being is that everybody that knows me knows I am sometimes too accessible. And safeguarding and self-care is what we fail on. A lot of us that have fallen into leadership, I say I fell into it. Just the way Gilda said it, just the way Skeena said it. None of us woke up and wanted to be seen. In fact, I wasn't seen. I was meant to be someone's wife. I cook. I was meant to cater to my husband. I am the biggest failure in some of those things, and I'm proud of it. But it's okay. It's okay. But what I want to say is that the door is open, but sometimes these young people these women have to be courageous to reach out and ask for help. But ask for help, but also recognize that we are human, just like you. We will make mistakes. We get tired. We get burnt out. We are insulted. We get death threats. We get fined. We have families. We have lives. So we might not be able to respond to you just because you want us to. So the same way you need help is sometimes nice. How many times do we get people asking us, who are leaders, how are you doing? Have you eaten? Have you slept? So it's also a reverse too. We want to support people, but we need people to support us too. So the door is open. I'm always here to help anyone. Most people can find me on Majestic Marvina. Yes, a mentoring program would be great. A leadership support, and leadership should not be a dirty word. Not everybody should be a leader. I'm saying that. And systems are needed in place. Come see, come start doesn't work all the time. So procedures, policies. The microbiologist in me is always saying that you need to have evidence in everything you do. So let's get that sorted. Thank you so much. Love everybody here. And I know we need to round up. Hester, back to you.
To round up, I'm going to just do quick final thoughts. I love these conversations because we never know where they're going to go. But I'm going to go to ask Sheridine.
By the way, Hester, your hair is nice. I like the new haircut. It's really beautiful.
Just went chop chop.
Yeah, beautiful.
I love you. Thank you, Sheridine. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is a brilliant discussion. I was actually supposed to have left an hour ago. And that was another course, and I know I've officially been thrown off that course, but I really didn't give a shit because this was awesome anyway. So what? But I think we need to do this again, Esther. Yeah, I think maybe you can do like maybe a monthly thing or something. I think this is really, really awesome. I'm really, really nervous of public speaking. And sometimes when people ask me a question, I'm like, "What do you mean?" If you probably gathered, but I really get going after a while. So thank you for that. Thank you for not, I'm not feeling embarrassed or anything, or being able to, yeah. So thank you so much. Love you.
Thank you. I love you, Sheridine. Thank you. Thank you for giving up your evening.
No problem. That's my Brussels sprouts.
Skeena, any final thoughts you want to impart with the space here?
We need to be together more is how I'm feeling, the same as Sheridine. There's so much that we haven't talked about and that's, I think, the problem we're talking about. It's part of the problem, right? That we haven't been able to find this togetherness, find the spaces to go, what is our leadership? What is our self-leadership? What is our leadership together? How do we hold each other in that? How do we pass the baton round? How do we care, as Marvina was saying, how do we care for all those needs that we share, right? So more of this. Thank you so much, Hester and Trusted People. Wow, for making these spaces. And I wonder, going back to what Bhavini was asking, I wonder how we let people know, let women know particularly, especially humans and women of color, right, that this is a space for them. How do we make it a space that is truly, it's not about powerful women of color, it's about women of color and culture and identities that get silenced over and over. So I'm really interested in that question. I'm really up, Bhavini, for supporting you in that question, right? I think it's a central question in CoLib. And yeah, let's do it. Thank you so much. Bless you. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the blessings. Gail, some closing thoughts or feelings?
I feel like I've spoken a lot actually, so I'm just really grateful to be here. I feel sort of a nervous excitement. There's been something about women and leaderships and movements coming together and all this stuff. I feel it's been cooking. I feel like the cauldron's got some more ingredients put in and a few more of us witches stirring it, if I might identify. So yeah, and it's the thing about creating a new story. The way to bring community organising to meet world power, the power in the world is overcoming this is according to Ben Phillips, Fighting Inequality, overcoming deference. There's not been any deference here tonight. Build power together from the ground up, which is what so many of us are involved in, and honouring the Trust the People folks here for doing that work and creating a new story. And I think it's a living story that we embody. It's not like some fancy PowerPoint slide, is it? So, yeah, really happy to join again. Lots of love.
From the ground up. Marvina, did you give a closing thought?
I'm going to do a closing prayer if that's okay. That's all my thoughts I have. Just a quick one, and just say thank you for the message that we've had. Divinity, thank you so much for the wisdom that has been exchanged today. Thank you for the meeting of minds. Thank you for your thoughts and your time. Thanks to those who have facilitated this space. Thanks to those who shared openly. Let them feel refreshed. Let them feel nourished. Let them find that zeal back to give them the strength to take care of self first, so they can be able to put the mask on themselves before they take care of other people. In the process of them self-loving, in the process of them acknowledging their power, they'll be able to radiate it to everybody. Ancestors, thank you. Divinity, thank you. Blessings. Ashe, ashe, ashe. That's my final words. Stay blessed, people.
Bless.
Blessings. I feel so nourished by all of you here, and I actually need to say that thank you to everyone I work with Trust the People, because you nourish me every day, and I found you all when I was so disillusioned and so lost. So just gratitude. I'm going to stop the live stream now. Good night, everyone watching. Thank you for joining us if you're watching.